May these lights continue to burn throughout the service as a symbol of the light that Yvonne was, and the light that we hope will remain with us long after she's gone. Can you cue the AV, please? Thank you. There is an AV that I'd like you all to watch. Thank you.
Ke ikana gore mo maemong a me jaaka moatlhodi wa kgotlatshekelo ya molaotheo.
From the streets of Galeshewe Township in the Northern Cape to the highest court in the land, law was not the first career choice for Justice Yvonne Mokgoro, whose working career included retail, assistant nursing, and working as a clerk.
First, I wanted to be a nun. I went to a Catholic school, and we were taught by nuns. And for all intents and purposes, they were the perfect people and their lives were lives that we aspired to.
Justice Mokgoro said a brush with the law sparked her interest in the field.
At the time, we had a law which was called the Loitering Act, which precluded black people in the townships from just chilling. You could never just chill. So I was walking with a friend, walking her home, who had visited me. And this young man was standing at the corner of Zingiza Primary School, you know. And he was just standing there, I guess chilling by himself. And the police van came, halted in front of him, picked him up, threw him into the van, and almost instinctively I objected to it. I screamed at the police and told them that how dare they do that, this young man hasn't done anything. Next moment I was in the van with him.
It was her interaction with PAC founder and human rights lawyer Robert Sobukwe, who represented her in court, that made her study law. She said her lament to Sobukwe about the lack of black lawyers made her take up the challenge of pursuing this career. Justice Mokgoro studied at the then Bukutatswana, now Northwest University. She went off to obtain her Master of Laws at the University of Pennsylvania in the United States of America. When she joined the bench of the Constitutional Court, the justice was one of 3 women judges in the country. She said this is the reason why she never stopped pushing for the inclusion of women in decision-making positions in the field.
I've never joined the bar, but I have a number of colleagues who we sit together in the South African Women Lawyers Association. We have an association internationally, and we fight and advocate for the inclusion of women in decision-making positions in the legal field at international level.
Mokgoro's Constitutional Court colleagues, who include Justice Dikgang Moseneke, described her as an outstanding legal eagle.
She is a towering human being. She has been a justice of our highest court for no less than 15 years. She is one of the magnificent 11. She's one of the first inaugural justices of the court.
With all her numerous awards and accolades, to her children, she was a wonderful mother.
She's just a wonderful human being and full of energy, vitality, vigor, very comfortable with young people. The kids love her because she's also quite young at heart herself.
Justice Mokgoro continued working post her Constitutional Court stint. She chaired the boards of numerous non-profit organizations, sat on the bench of the Namibia Supreme Court and Lesotho Appeal Court. In 2019, she chaired the Mokgoro inquiry, which led to the dismissal of NPA advocates Nomgcobo Jiba and Lawrence Mugwebi. When she turned 70, she said she felt guilty for working while on retirement.
And I'm way over 60 now. I retired then, and I promised my children, my grandchildren, that I will spend more time with them, especially my grandchildren. And I have 6 grandchildren, and 5 of them are girls. They need attention. Just as I mentor younger people younger judges, younger lawyers, young girls to enter the legal profession, and other young girls to be strong to withstand the cruelty of the world. I need to do that with my own children too.
Looking back on her incredible career, the justice said her work at the Constitutional Court remained the highlight of her career and contribution to her country.
The judicial appointment at the Constitutional Court, it is the best part of my career. I had thought I was a professor of law, associate professor of law, and I was teaching, and I loved teaching. And I look at them when they come in straight from high school, you know, Mokgoro, you know, and then you meet them at postgraduate level, the same students, totally different, totally different. Suddenly they carry briefcases, they no longer carry, you know, the backpack, carry briefcases, and they question about everything, which I liked, you know, and they think they know everything, you know, and I loved that. I just loved it. They changed just like this. And to know that you are part of that change in their thinking, in the way they conduct themselves, in the way they carry themselves, and it is even better when you see them practicing. And then when I was at the Constitutional Court, I would see some of them coming before the court to argue cases. Ah, that was delightful.
Margaret Mutibi, SABC News, Kimberley.
At this point, I would like to invite this wonderful young lady who's going to sing her goodbye to Sis Yvonne. Abangcwele kulapho abangcwele bayophumla khona, lihle izulu ikhaya labangcwele kulapho abangcwele bayophumla khona, lihle izulu, lihle izulu ikhaya labangcwele kulapho abangcwele bayophumla khona. Ngiyamuthanda, ngiyamuthanda uJesu wami, ngoba wandifela esiphambanwe. Ngiyamuthanda, ngiyamuthanda uJesu, Jesu wami, ngoba wandifela esiphambanweni. Thank you. Thank you. I think she hears you where she is. And she saw you lighting the candles. And she sees us all here, controlling our tears. That it's fine for us to cry if we want to. At this point, I would like us to listen to messages. There are 3 messages at first, and then we will go to the Legacy Project messages. Can you cue on their audio? Thank you.
A tribute by Advocate Michael Mervyn Katz. Dear family, it is indeed very sad for me to express my sincere condolences to all of you as members of the distinguished family of the late Justice Yvonne Mokgoro. You will well understand that I, as one of millions of South Africans, were horrified to hear of the tragedy that occurred. I was privileged to have known the late Justice Mokgoro very well and interacted with her in numerous capacities. She was a lady of great intellect, integrity, and dedication, to name but a few of her many attributes. In this sadness that you are currently experiencing, you can take great pride when reflecting on the enormous contribution that Justice Mokgoro made to South Africa, which will be of enduring value. I, together with many South Africans, can extend my sincere condolences to all of you at this very sad time. You are in our hearts and prayers. Best regards, yours sincerely, Advocate Michael Katz. Remembering the civic life of Justice Yvonne Mokgoro. A tribute by Dr. Warren Tlelo. It was with great sadness that I learned that Judge Yvonne had passed on after her brave suffering. We worked together at the NMCF for many years. We sang from the same hymn sheet on many issues. Please, can you pass my condolences to her family? Best regards, Dr. Warren Tlelo. A tribute by Justice Kathleen Sechwell. Yvonne was a dear friend and colleague, and it was I who persuaded her that she would just be the right person to take over as chair of the NMCF, in which she did a sterling job. Her wonderful courtesy and thoughtfulness have impressed everyone who knew her. She will be much missed. Best regards, Justice Kathleen Sechwell.
Thank you. Oh yeah. Inzima le nto. There are 3 main legacy projects that Madiba started when he came out of prison. These are the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, which gave birth to the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital, and also the Nelson Mandela Foundation, together with the Mandela Rhodes Foundation. By some plan of the Almighty God, and I think through Madiba's hand as well, Justice Yvonne was involved with all of them. Whether it was from helping to appoint people to serve on the Mandela Rhodes Foundation, or it was sitting with us as trustees of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, or going on to help with the hospital, she was always there. A towering presence, very tiny in stature, and yet such a giant. You heard her speak. Her voice did not go up a certain decibel. She was warm and loving. And now we would like to reflect on the Nelson Mandela Rhodes Foundation. Mrs. Judy Sikuza recorded an AV for this. Please cue AV. Thank you.
Words cannot express what a deep loss this is for us as a foundation and for South Africa at large, especially given that this year is the 30th anniversary of our democracy as South Africa. Justice Yvonne Mokgoro was an inspiration to many of us, especially to young black females. Her appointment as the first ever black female justice on the South African Constitutional Court in 1994 was an incredible inspiration to all of us. It gave us the mandate that we too could dream of becoming anything that we wanted to be, as we used our skills to positively contribute to the development of our country. In all my dealings with Justice Yvonne, I found her to have deep vision, compassion, a true advocate for justice, and she always demonstrated a courage that encouraged us and pushed us to say, how do we continue to live out the spirit of Madiba in all that we did? She will be sorely missed. Rest in peace, Mama Wetu. we will not tire in our efforts to ensure that we create a truly equal and just society, as you have always inspired and desired.
Oh, thank you so much, Judy. I shall, at this point, request Mr. Joe Silwani, is he here, to come and speak to us about how Yvonne touched them as they served at the Children's Hospital. He's the director of the Children's Hospital. Please come in, Joe. Oh, yes.
Balisika la Mokgoro le Bafel momme a tswalang teng ha ke bona kgaitsedi a itshwanela le mme Yvonne Mokgoro, our sister. We are just saying we are here to tell you, Luluna Hore, we have lost, we know that you have lost a sister, a mother, a grandmother. But Runa, we lost a sister, a phenomenal lady who's always composed. She had her own branding that when she appears, it will be that dark, well-groomed hair, soft-spoken, that smile that will melt even the toughest of the people. I am here on behalf of the chairperson, the directors, the management, and the children that she has created a legacy for. It was shortly after Judge Mseneke had retired. We were all kind of confused as to what is going to happen because the founding chair had retired. And the various trustees and the elders who kept on supporting the vision of the Children's Hospital and the doc in terms of leading the audit and finance committee. I know there had been difficult times to fund the project of the hospital. So when Judge Mokgoro came in, she would persuade all parties of the legacy projects to really, even where there would have been different viewpoints as to funding the hospital and for how long, and the various subcommittees under her leadership could be able to rally a common agreement towards funding the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital. I have been involved with the hospital for almost now this year, actually 20 years. And throughout that time, we have seen how the judge believed in the protection of the rights of children and women, and in all that she did, even in the court about jurisprudence. She would actually look at the entire philosophy of law in order to be able to find a judgment that will be just. She would be seen to be very soft-spoken, but she knew exactly how to peruse and give judgments that she could be one of those people who could send you to jail and you could go there smiling. Because she would have made you feel humane. I would recall the times when we would have difficult discussion, whether online or in person. She would persuade all the parties, almost listening to everyone, even if, let's say, and she would say, there is no right or wrong question. Just tell us exactly how you view things. And at the end, even if, let's say, you had a different opinion, when she comes to consolidate all the views that have been expressed, you will all feel that there is a win-win situation, not a win-lose, because she would look at the entire, even sometimes social, cultural opinions that seem to be having emotions, and maybe the facts are not true, but consolidate. So what can you say on the days such as this? I had to look at the meaning of the word or the name Yvonne. Yvonne stands for a tree. It stands for that tree that they make the bows and arrows from, the archer. So it means she would be that kind of tree that would be resilient and strong enough that it could be able to be used in a way that it could be able to change the situation. So one of the quotes that I want to make, and it is by Rabin Draneth Tagote, who says, "The one who plants trees, knowing that he or she will never sit in their shade, has at least started to understand the meaning of life." Judge Mokgoro knew the meaning of life. Life is not about winning arguments, but her humility. It's what embodied her and the kind of person and giant she has been. Balusika, we need to be able to value, or you should value as we value what we had. Your sibling, your mother, your grandmother, we now reflect because we thought we were going to be with her for many years to come. At her age, you couldn't tell her age unless somebody discloses it to you. So what then do we say when we give tribute to such a giant? She was, in Hebrew, it is said, Yvonne, it is meaning the gift or the grace of God, or in terms of the Scandinavian or French or German words, it's that kind of you would. And life, it is a long time of humility. And as we're saying, we could see the upholding of her social harmony, her recognizing that we are, as human beings, dependent on each other, that we cannot be able to, in any decision we make, be malicious. When she decides, she would not be malicious with anybody. So she would always understand that the leadership of NMCF and with all the related organizations, that it is a dream and the ideals that Madiba, when she first appointed her in 1994, and the ongoing work that she now took over as the NMCF chairperson, that she understood that there were projects that were going to come out of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, which the Nelson Mandela Children's Hospital is one of those legacy projects. To all of you who have been involved and are continuing to be involved now within the NMCF, within the Rhodes Foundation, within all the sister organizations, to be able to support in one way or the other what the children of South Africa well deserved of a standalone children's hospital, and the work that management is doing just embodies what Judge Mokgoro stood for. So I'm going to conclude with a very kind of a scripture in 2 Kings chapter 6, but in particular verse 5. And it reads as follows in the Amplified Version. It says, "But it happened that as one was cutting down a beam, the axe head fell into the water, and he cried out and said, 'Oh no, my master, it is a borrowed axe.'" So the axe head fell into the water. Ke selepe sa go adimiwa. Ne re sa itse gore Modimo re adimile yena for sebakanyana. And that we have been borrowed here. E re so nkadimileng sona ha re ke se busetse le teng ke tla nne ke re ho lokile. So it means when something that has been borrowed and you've been asked to use, when the owner says bring it back, you need to say, to know that it was never ours. She was never ours. We were borrowed by the constitutional court. We were borrowed by the family. We were borrowed by society, this giant. And now that she's been taken away from us, we are saying, it is well with our soul. May her soul rest in eternal peace. God bless you.
Can we get a musical interlude? Obujo, your moving speech has once more confirmed that she was indeed a giant tree. She was indeed a giant tree. But even as she is in heaven, we will continue to enjoy the shade that the tree provides. Thank you.
Modimo riboka wena, modimo riboka. Tsotle, 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 dientswegi wena, modimo riboka wena.
Nyaruri re a moka modimo o re file mpho entle. Mongwe wa bana ba ga Yvonne leina la gagwe ke Mpho. Nna sa gone e lone hela ngwanake. Nna na le lebaka. Ithateng. To see how she loved herself. She gave her firstborn son the name Ithateng, meaning love. And she loved this country and everybody in it. May I now call upon the Nelson Mandela Foundation Director, Ms. Alice Brown. I'm so sorry I didn't see you there. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. First, on behalf of the Nelson Mandela Foundation Board and staff, I would like to extend our deepest condolences to Yvonne's family, her friends, and colleagues. Next, I'd like to thank the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund for organizing this memorial service and for giving its sister organization, the Nelson Mandela Foundation, an opportunity to offer a few words of recognition and gratitude for the contributions of Justice Yvonne Mokgoro. Her career as an academic and a jurist will rightfully be lauded in other fora. But today, at this gathering, we want to recognize and celebrate Yvonne's role with and in civil society. Indeed, the gathering here today is testament to the fact that after retiring from the Constitutional Court, Yvonne maintained a deep commitment to public service, a profound respect for the role of civil society, and a passion for the pursuit of social justice. During her so-called retirement, Yvonne gave a great deal of pro bono time and energy to numerous civil society efforts focused on the protection and promotion of rights, equality, and civic participation. And among those activities were ones that she took on under the auspices of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Specifically, in 2016, in response to the Fees Must Fall protest taking place on various university campuses across the country, Yvonne joined a group of concerned citizens who offered assistance to the various stakeholders affected by those protests. This grouping of concerned elders included leaders from law, civil society, business, education, faith-based entities, and cultural institutions. And they sought to bring together representatives from student structures, formations, vice chancellors' offices, university councils, higher education departments, and parents, all in an effort to neutralize the conflict and help to find sustainable solutions to the crises. To this end, over the course of that year, Yvonne and her fellow Council of Elders members conducted mediation interventions on campuses, hosted private and public dialogues, and convened stakeholder meetings. The following year, in response to the continued unrest during the Fees Must Fall campaigns, I have been told that Yvonne was a driving force behind the formal creation of the National Education Crisis Forum. And again, the goal here was to continue to provide a platform for all parties affected by the tertiary education crisis. During this period, and with extensive consultation, the forum's work with the various stakeholders led to a protocol for the conduct of campus protest and the provision of healthcare services in that context. I spoke with Vern Harris, the acting CEO of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, about this period and Yvonne's involvement. Vern noted that the interactions and interventions during the Fees Must Fall campaign were indeed difficult, contentious, intellectually challenging, morally draining, and even at times scary. What impressed him was that throughout this period, Yvonne's voice was one of the loudest, saying, "We have to do something. We have to help." Vern found this especially admirable because Yvonne, having served her time as a public servant and being retired, did not need to be there. After all, at that stage in her life, Yvonne had paid her dues and could easily and understandably have rested on her laurels. But she was there, in the middle of this difficult and contentious issue, trying to be of service. Again, this is yet another example of Yvonne's dedication to being an active and engaged citizen leader. Now, here, I ask you to please bear with me as I take an opportunity to do double duty. Yes, I am here representing the Nelson Mandela Foundation, and I sit on its board. But I am also a member of the Constitutionalism Fund, and Yvonne was the founding chair of this South African social justice philanthropy. I came on board in 2021, while Yvonne had been a member since the fund's inception in 2014. Earlier this week, there was a meeting of the Constitutionalism Fund's advisory committee, and of course, we spent some time reminiscing about Yvonne. Among other things, my colleagues spoke of their appreciation of Yvonne's intellect, passion, commitment to social justice, and a commitment to the South African Constitution. And they also spoke of Yvonne's humanity and her humility. By way of example, one of the younger members of the team mentioned that back at the start of the fund, she wanted to refer to Yvonne as judge. But Yvonne would have none of that. Yvonne, she said, was not married to titles. Another colleague admired the ways in which Yvonne saw people's potential and mentored juniors. Indeed, it was noted that Yvonne promoted women in the legal profession and that she was a founding member of South African Women in the Law. And I would be remiss if I did not share that Constitutionalism Fund colleagues also spoke of how much fun Yvonne was, and that she had a zest for life and a noteworthy sense of style and grace. Lastly, one of the Constitutionalism Fund's Secretariat members is a facilitator who works with groups of young South African women. In sessions with these millennials and post-millennials, this facilitator regularly asks the following questions. Who do you look up to? Who do you admire? She told us that inevitably, one of the top names on the list of these young women would be that of Justice Yvonne Mokgoro. May she rest in peace, glory, and power. Thank you.
Like a sweet onion that you peel, we hear more and more about Yvonne today, secrets that we didn't know. And we are all the better for having had her in our lives. I would like at this point to call on Date Mpho, a trustee of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund. Thank you, Date Mpho. You'll take us through another journey of Madiba's dream and how Yvonne made it happen. Thank you.
Program Director, Balusika Lakwa Mokgoro, Bara Ba Mokgoro, our dear aunts present here. Earlier on, I also greeted Naledi Lingwedi, they represent the galaxy. Other grandchildren present here. The one and only sister among the brothers and your family. I stand here representing our chair of the board of trustees, Me Nana Mahomola, as well as our deputy chair, Re Moswasheng. Both of them are traveling out of the country. They would have cherished to be here to pay this tribute in person, but asked me to do so on their behalf and also on behalf of our colleagues in management and staff. The Holy Book tells us that if we live for the Lord. And if we die, it is also for the Lord. So whether we live or die, we belong to the Lord. And therefore, fellow trustees, past trustees that I've seen earlier this morning, trustees from other Mandela sister organizations, esteemed elders present, distinguished guests, Maruna Me Pumzilem Lambonguka, our past Deputy President of our Republic, Kerebahaetsu Dumelang, Rere Mahloko Khubaga Mokgoro. Condolences to all of us, friends, colleagues. It has already been mentioned that we're here to celebrate the wonderful legacy of the Honorable Justice Me Yvonne Mokgoro, a wife and life partner, mama to her sons and daughter Bobo, and our mama to her wonderful grandchildren. the most challenging task for all leaders is to be the best example of the values espoused by the organizations they lead. The NMCF's raison d'être, as the French say, is to improve how society treats its children. And this raison d'être calls on all of us as employees, management and trustees in celebrating her legacy to be men and women of good standing in society. This is even more important in the times we live in. We find ourselves in times where there's a constant tussle between perhaps the good and the bad. It is my assertion that across the world, there's a constant tussle between good citizens who seek to contribute towards a better world, and on the one hand, versus those that seek to extract value at the back of the good names and good deeds of those making this positive contribution to the detriment of the greater good of society. Dwight D. Eisenhower, the 34th President of the United States, once said, "The supreme quality of leadership is integrity." Justice Yvonne Mokgoro possessed this quality without question. We were privileged to serve with her as our chairperson under her ethical leadership. And perhaps because of that ethical leadership, we stand as one of few organizations that remain untarnished by this tussle of good contributory citizenship versus extractive citizenship. We called it state capture in our country. I think it made us somewhat myopic as a country because we treated it as if though it was uniquely South African. All over the world, there's a big challenge of kleptocracy, democracy versus kleptocracy. And so those that champion democracy and the good ethical values Dr. Mokgoro espoused would be these positive contributors I'm talking about. Those that seek to capture and extract are the kleptocrats. She certainly at all times ensured that we knew the difference in all major decisions that we've had to make in the boardroom. Her humility preceded her status, regardless of who she was dealing with. This was testimony also to the words she said 29 years ago, a year into her appointment as the first female Constitutional Court judge. And I quote, "Although South Africans have a history of deep divisions characterized by strife and conflict, one shared value and ideal that runs like a golden thread across cultural lines is the value of Ubuntu. To this day, despite all the challenges we have as a nation, that golden thread still runs in South Africa, and it does so because of the inspired leadership of people like Me, Justice Yvonne Mokgoro. The Ubuntu she espoused was not just a matter of speaking empty words or feeble gestures. She lived by the principle. Her roots in Khalishiwe, as we saw also earlier in the audiovisual, taught her at an early age that indeed motu, ke motu kabatu. These are the teachings she took everywhere she went. She lived by these principles and insisted those working closely with her to employ and embrace them. These are such humane principles that we ought to work harder on embracing and passing on to the next generation. Our task as trustees is to keep the torch shining in those dark corners where mothers, but especially children, are downtrodden. We have a duty in our lifetime to ensure that we indeed change and give new meaning, as well as hope in terms of how society treats our children. The legacy left for South Africans, particularly our young people, is to always be humble, possess dedication, and be driven by commitment, participation, and people-first leadership. In one of his many recorded and inspiring quotes, the founder of the NMCF, Madiba, said, "Our human compassion binds us to one another, not in pity or patronizingly, but as human beings who have learned to turn our common suffering into hope for the future." Bagaetsho ba ga Mokgoro, mogapo motona o wele. A moya wa mama o goroge go mmupi ka kagiso. Re tle tshedisagang ba ga Mokgoro. A modimo le phumole dikeledi. O le thobe dipelo tse robegileng. On behalf of the trustees and staff, we wish to say let's preserve her memory and release her. A ithoballe ka kagiso modimo teng.
Leboga Makwana. Ha re ba le ka kagiso a dipelo tsa rona di fole.
You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy. You are Alpha. You are Alpha and Omega. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. We give you the glory. We worship you, our Lord. You are worthy to be praised. We give you the glory. We worship you, oh Lord. You are worthy to be praised.
Oh, what a beautiful hymn and a beautiful voice. Those who don't know, she's actually a member of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund staff. Hira, utengfa. On that lovely note, may I ask Umama Wetu, our former president, deputy president, who should have been president, and former executive director of UN Women, also referred to as an Under-Secretary General of the United Nations. Thank you, Dr. Mlambo Nguka. Please come and speak to us, our president.
Tubulise umndeni, tubulise nesihlobo, colleagues and friends, Zaga Yvonne. I just had not imagined this day. I knew Yvonne from Cape Town, where we were both activists in the women's movement in Cape Town. What a gem. I remember us going to attend meetings At that time, there was only Wimpy and Spare where you could hang out for coffee, and would end up at Wimpy and Spare and sit down and strategize for the next meeting about the things we needed to do as we organized women, and we were always talking about young women. It was so inspirational to be in her company. And then, of course, she became a judge, which did not surprise me. I knew how driven she was and how she believed in the work that she was doing as a lawyer and now a judge. And then we teamed up again at the Rhodes Mandela Foundation. And for about 10 years, we traveled together doing the work for that foundation. And every conversation and time with her, you just had a chapter that you could take away. As a member of the Singnes Kwele, because you've said a lot about the other legacy project that she was at that Rhodes Mandela Foundation, she was a rock. She was sharp. She also helped us to shape this organization from the start to what it has become. And I'm so proud of the work that she did and the young people she inspired there. The young women in particular. So today, as we are saying goodbye to her, indima yakho uyidlalile. I feel like there was still more. She could have lived for many more years and there would still have been something new, something fresh that she will bring to this country that she loved so much. So I hope that the family will be consoled in knowing that wenzile umsebenzi wakhe. She made us very proud. For many women, she was someone you could look up to, young and old. So, lala kahle sisi wami, indima yakho uyifezile.
Siyabulela, Dr. Nka. Yeah. Every time somebody gets up to speak, we see another glimpse of Yvonne, another layer of the onion. Oh, Mama Siapekane, the red onion starts out looking red outside. As you peel it, you come to another color. Sometimes it's a green, and it gradually goes until it's white. What purity is that? I will at this time ask Tanaka Yvonne, the firstborn child, the one through whom she learned to be a mother, to come and give us the family tribute. Thank you, Tati.
Dumelang bagolo, dumelang ditsala, dumelang bakaulengwe, dumelang bana, bonkgonne, bomangwane, dumelang setšhaba. What if strength is laughter? What if strength is kindness? What if strength is vulnerability? What if it's informality, easiness, laid back? What if a smile is strength? What if to be gentle is to show strength? What if open-mindedness is strength? What if a flickering candle is a strong candle, or is a display of strength? What if nurturing and motherhood, and I will return to nurturing, what if that is strength? What if beauty is strength? Fun is strength? Grace is strength. Integrity, strength. To inspire is to use your strength. Ubuntu, Botu. What if that is strength? My mother was strong. Our mother was strong. Your grandmother was strong. Your sister was strong. In ways that we always knew, but you know, these things, you build them up into words and monuments only in retrospect. I want to read a few words from my family. Your love has never fallen short. You have been my only support from day 4. Her love for people to me was evident in how she'd be present in a moment with whoever she would be engaging with. She'd make you feel like you're the only one or thing in that moment that mattered. She recognized each one of what they were, human. Each one for what they were, human. If you are human, or if you are human. Social status didn't matter to her. She noticed you and gave you her time and full attention. It is a gift of presence, and I truly admired her for that. And this is from Pam, my cousin. Ngama, to come from you is the greatest privilege. This is Itumeleng, Sina, Reboni, and Rifense. Itumeleng is my brother. Sina is his wife. Rifense, Le Reboni, Kibanabawon. My Mayvon, my Koko, my Oma. I've never imagined existence without you. Losing you has felt like a never-ending nightmare. I have never known a greater love than what you had to give, and you really poured it in abundance. In this time of reflection, we've had the opportunity to hear so much from everyone who valued you, everyone who shares this loss with us. All the lives that you have touched tell us that you were truly here, gave your all, and made your mark. Rest easy, knowing that that's what live on. You ran your race and finished strong. Your light will carry on for generations. Ours is to make sure that it will never burn out. From the depths of my heart, I love you. I miss you every day. Thank you for everything. You were to our family, your community, and the world at large. Indeed, the world will never know another Yvonne Mokgoro until we are united again. yours forever, Flay, her first granddaughter. My dear Coco, you will forever hold a piece of my heart. Being your Nana has been a gift, and while I do not get to experience more of the love you gave me, the amount you gave when you were still here with us is more than enough to last a lifetime. I will hold your love in my heart forever, for eternity. I will tell my own grandchildren stories of you, stories about your heart, your love, your kindness, and I will aspire to be as wonderful a grandmother as you had been. I love you, and your loss has brought on so much despair that it has also reminded me of the joyous moments we shared. When we laughed together, the ways we bonded, the stories we tell each other. It has made me appreciate in other ways, in ways that remind me to remain joyful, to remain hopeful, to forever hold love in my heart. You remain in my heart, you will forever be in my heart. The love will be remembered. You will be remembered. My Coco, my Vonnie, my entire heart and soul. Moon, her granddaughter, my daughter. Coco, thank you for always being kind and loving. I will love you forever. That's young Zuko over there. Mama, thank you. What a privilege it is to love you and be loved by you. I will miss the warmth of your embrace, the sound of your hearty laugh, and our long chats about everything and nothing. Ours is a love story that will transcend time and space. Your name and story will live on through many generations and that of our family. Rest in paradise. Best friend, Bobo, the one and only daughter. Apart from being a diplomat, Mama was also a layman, and she grew up that way. Growing up, she used to love to sit flat on the kota. Yeah? You know, the kota is kota, the one that you eat. Yeah, she used to love that when she was a kid. She loved. She had strange taste for food. Well wrapped, and so that it became nicely flat and wide, and sometimes even blow a wind on it, so that no one would want to share. That is from her sister, Mangwan. Every time I look at our children and their demeanor, I see a replica of your values. When I listen to people reflecting on people-centeredness, I read exactly the message of Motho Mobato. Tsamaya sentle mmaagwe banaka. Modimo o ne a go re adimile. O buile gape go tla go go tsaya a go busetsa gae. We'll continue to cherish and emulate your unstinting Ubuntu values. Ke tla tswelela le bana le ditlogolo jaaka o nweleditse. Robala ka kagiso. I want to talk a little bit about Mama's final days, if I may. She suffered greatly. She suffered greatly for a year. You know, she lay on a bed, and we didn't know what's going on in her head. We didn't know if she could see us, she could hear us. She couldn't move, but she was there. She breathed. Every now and then she would flick her eyes. And for a year she did that. She held on to life, and I think life held on to her. It didn't want to give her up. Poetic interpretation, if I may. But I saw all of these values, all of these words that I shared and borrowed from the previous speakers who stepped onto the stage. Strength is an amazing quality because you know, we tend to think it's concrete and muscles, but if you look at life and you see how it endures and it holds on and it persists and how tenacious it is, and a drought comes, you think life is gone, and a drop of water falls onto the ground and plants come back. You wonder where they were all this time. That's life showing you strength. And there will be little saplings that come from the ground now that Mama has left. Okay. On the last day, we got a call from the people managing the facility, and they said, today is the day. And I said, yeah, I've got a meeting at 12 o'clock, and after that I'll come. I said, no, please come, today is the day. And I called my siblings, we came, we sat around, talked, played music for her. And then at 3 o'clock, it was clear that that was the moment. And, you know, it was beautiful. All her children, their friends, the people who loved her, the people that she loved, the people that she gave birth to, were around her, holding on to her arms, hands, legs, face. And you know, the room has a glass wall on one side, and it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, so there was strong sunlight shining in. And I was on the other side, so I could see everyone, you know, against the light in silhouette. And behind that, there was classical music playing. And I thought, this woman, you know, even at this moment, she has to live in style, you know. And she kept it up, and she bid us goodbye. And she had her last breath, her eyes were always closed. And here we are, and thank you so much for celebrating her life with us, living her life with us, making it so meaningful. She is nothing without you. She is who she is because of you. You chose her. We are eternally grateful for that. Setjhaba sa rona, bagaetsho. Thank you.
Dad, thank you, Winnie. She ran her race. She kept her faith. She has completed what God brought her to earth. At this time, I asked Dr. Linda, who is the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Children's Fund, and she was the last one that Sis Yvonne, Mamani Yvonne, Mama Yvonne, my dear friend, my ex-neighbor Yvonne, appointed. And I hope, having heard what she went through, you will keep the faith. Thank you.
I would like to thank the family for agreeing to our request to host a memorial service for the Mandela Legacy organizations, of which Justice Mokgoro was an integral part of the governance structure as chairperson of our fund and a trustee at the Mandela Rhodes Foundation, and working very closely with the trustees of the Nelson Mandela Foundation. Thank you, Deputy President Phumzile Ndambo-Ncika. We call her auntie here at the fund, and wherever we need her, she comes. Thank you to the current and former trustees who are here of the various Mandela Legacy organizations. Thank you, Sis Lulama, for agreeing to lead the program today. Thank you to my counterparts at the Mandela Legacy organizations and their colleagues, the CEO of the hospital, who is here, Dr. Nkuli Bukutso, and in absentia, the CEO of the Nelson Mandela Foundation, Prof. Vern Harris, and Ms. Judy Scusa. My predecessors, Mrs. Bongiem Kabela and Kone Kukushe, for their invaluable assistance and inputs into planning today's program. To my colleagues at the fund, especially Mpho, Neo, and our communications partner, Lorato, who coordinated the logistics of ensuring we were ready for this service. Thank you for a job well done. And thank you to our Bobo, who's got a month-old baby, but still agreed to come and sing because it mattered to her. To all of you who've taken the time to come and be a part of this service, to mourn, but also to celebrate the civil life of Justice Mokgoro, thank you. Above all, we thank God for Justice Yvonne Mokgoro, an amazing, humble, compassionate, loving, loved person, full of life. She was such a vibe, and we are so honored that she was a part of our world. I was sharing with my colleagues my first encounter with her. She walked into the office, stylish. She put her handbag on the floor and she opened her arms. That was my first encounter, an encounter that I will always remember. So Tati, I was also a child of hers. And as we end our service today, please allow me to pronounce a blessing over all of us. The Lord bless us and keep us. The Lord make his face shine on us and be gracious to us. The Lord turn his face toward us and give us peace. Shalom. And to my Yvonne, till we meet again, God be with you. Thank you.
God be with you till we meet again. God be with you till we meet again. When life's spirit did confound you, put his arms unfailing round you. God be with you till we meet again, till we meet, till we meet, till we meet at Jesus' feet, till we meet, till we meet. God be with you till we meet
All I can say now is amen. Realeboha. Thank you all for coming today, for sharing with us this heavy pain and burden we feel. Most of all, to the family, we thank God for you, because you are the seed that is going to sprout and carry forward her legacy. We love you all, Bomangane. At this point, we have reached the end of our program. May I invite all of you to join us for a little bite, just to say goodbye properly to Yvonne. She loved good food, and I'm sure that's good. Thank you so much. Ambani kakuhle, please be safe. Those who are driving, follow the distance that you're supposed to follow. No drinking, no driving. I drove behind A man who was lost and he was staring at his phone and he didn't realize that his car was moving like that. Please don't use your phones in the cars when you drive. Thank you. Godspeed. Go well.
Move